What if a single drop of human blood held the secret to saving an ancient alien race and unlocking a forgotten truth that could unite the galaxy? When a dying extraterrestrial crashes near a remote research station on Europa, one scientist's decision to help sparks a chain of events that rewrites humanity's place in the stars. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and show some love with a thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's jump into the story. The orbit around Europa was always quiet, just a soft hum of systems and the occasional static from distant space traffic. The research vessel Solace floated above the frozen moon like a patient ghost. For weeks, nothing unusual had happened. But everything changed when the emergency beacon blared through the ship's calm halls, its red light flashing like a warning from the future. Dr. Lena Moren nearly dropped her tablet when the alarm went off. She had been studying microbial samples, trying to prove life could exist under Europa's thick ice shell. But when the signal lit up her screen with a blinking biohazard alert, Bay 3, she didn't hesitate. She sprinted through the narrow corridor toward the medical bay, her mind racing with possibilities she wasn't sure she wanted to face. By the time she arrived, Kieran Dale was already there, pale-faced and shaky. He stood over a metallic gurney where something, not human, not animal, lay completely still. The room smelled of metal and ozone. On the table was a creature that looked like it belonged in another galaxy, which, given their location, wasn't too far-fetched. The being's skin was a shimmering shade of blue, nearly see-through, with waves of dull light pulsing across its surface. Four limbs, two longer than the others, ended in delicate webbed digits. A line of clear, crystal-like spines ran from its brow to the back of its skull. But none of that startled Lena as much as the dark purple liquid leaking from the alien's torso. Blood, or something like it. The gurney beneath it was stained and slick. "What happened?" she asked, grabbing gloves and scanning gear. Kieran swallowed hard. "It crashed near the mining zone. The drone picked up the wreck. We thought it was just debris from an old probe. But we found this. Alive. Barely." Lena ran her scanner over the creature's body. Nothing made sense. Its anatomy was completely unfamiliar, but the data was clear. It was dying. Two heart-like organs were barely beating. Oxygen levels were dropping. Whatever this thing was, it needed help fast. Captain Orvin J. appeared in the doorway, frowning as he looked inside. "Moren, what in stars is that? We should have followed quarantine procedures." "It was breathing when they brought it in," Lena said without looking up. "I'm not going to let it die if I can help it." Orvin stepped back with a scowl. "Protocol says we wait for Central Command. We don't mess with things we don't understand." But Lena was already examining the wounds. Torn tissue, ruptured vessels, internal bleeding. This creature had been through something violent. Yet the injuries weren't beyond saving. What was beyond them was knowledge. How could she repair what she didn't understand? The aliens' eyes flicked open. Lena froze. Two large silver orbs stared up at her, glowing faintly from within. There was no aggression, only awareness. The alien made a soft noise, like music played underwater. A melody, not words. The translation software stuttered, beeped, then failed completely. Despite the fear crawling up her spine, Lena leaned closer. "We're not going to hurt you," she said gently, not even sure it could understand. The creature sang again, softer this time. Its light faded more with each breath. Lena knew she had minutes, maybe less. "I need more data," she whispered, running a tissue compatibility scan out of desperation. She needed to find anything at all that could stop the bleeding. The machine whirred, blinked, and then stopped. Her own blood showed a 97% match. Lena stared at the screen. That couldn't be right. It wasn't just similar. It was nearly compatible. Not close like cousins. More like siblings. She blinked hard, thinking the machine must be broken, but the result remained. Kieran hovered beside her. "That can't be real, can it?" She didn't answer. She was already prepping the transfusion equipment. "You're not seriously going to—" "Lena, wait. We don't even know what it is. That thing could kill you, or change you, or worse. It's dying, she said quietly, and we might be the only ones who can stop it. Orvin's voice barked over the intercom. Morin, don't be reckless. But she was already inserting the line, watching her own blood begin its slow journey into an alien body. The room was still. Every second dragged. Nothing happened at first. Then, a soft glow returned to the creature's skin. Its breath steadied. The scanner beeped with stronger readings. And when the transfusion completed, the alien opened its eyes again, fully, alert. This time it spoke. The translator caught only a few words. Gratitude, wonder, kin. Lena felt something she couldn't explain stirred deep in her chest. For a moment, no one said anything. Kieran finally exhaled. What if this changes everything? Lena nodded slowly. What if it already has? The days that followed felt like walking through a dream. Ever since Dr. Lena Moren had performed the blood transfusion, the alien, now called Naro, had shown rapid signs of recovery. His glowing skin was brighter each morning, the patterns of light dancing across his body like a living language. The research crew aboard Solace remained cautious, but curiosity was beginning to win over fear. Naro sat upright now, breathing calmly, observing his new surroundings with silver eyes that seemed to understand more than they should. Lena stayed by his side for hours every day. She spoke to him even when he didn't respond, describing things, earths, oceans, the feeling of snow, the sound of music, things she thought might comfort a creature so far from home. And though Naro didn't speak much, he listened. His gaze always fixed on her with an odd intensity, as if he were memorizing everything about her. Kieran Dale, ever the curious tech operator, worked around the clock to improve the translation software. He rewired modules, added old language, databases, even uploaded melody recognition programs. It's not just speech, he explained to Lena one night. His voice has tones, layers, harmonics, like he's singing meaning instead of just saying it. Whatever Naro was, he wasn't just some stray alien. There was intelligence in his words. An old, measured intelligence that suggested he had lived a long time, or perhaps carried the knowledge of those who had. On the third day, when the new translation patch was activated, Naro spoke a full sentence that made the room fall silent. Your blood carries memory, lost pieces, connection. Lena stared at him, stunned. What do you mean? Memory. Naro's expression shifted, gentle, distant. Then he reached forward, fingers brushing, against the bio-display panel. Instantly, a soft light appeared in the air between them. Floating images formed. Stars, planets, strange ships built like living shells, and tall beings with radiant skin walking across worlds that no longer existed. These were my people, Naro said. Long ago. The founders. The name struck, something inside Lena, though she couldn't say why. He continued. We knew the end would come. We sent our seed through stars. To grow. To survive. Lena took a slow breath. Are you saying humans? You are echoes, Naro replied. Not copies, not lesser. Different, but born from us. The revelation hit the room like a silent explosion. Kieran's hands froze above his keyboard. The captain, patched in by video, leaned forward with narrowed eyes. Why now? Kieran asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Why find us now? Because, Naro said, eyes glowing softly. We are fading. Too few. Too broken. You carry what we lost. Lena didn't speak for a long time. Her mind raced with 1,000 questions. If what he said was true, then everything she'd believed about human evolution, about their place in the universe, was wrong, or at least incomplete. They weren't alone. They never had been. Kieran finally spoke. We need proof, records, DNA comparisons, language roots, something. Naro nodded. I will show. But truth is not just in data. It is in feeling, in memory. Over the next few days, he shared more of his history, not through words, but through projected light and sound. Entire histories unfolded before them like dreams. They saw peaceful cities under triple suns, ancient technology that could shape landscapes and voices that could heal. They saw worlds destroyed by time and silence. They saw the desperate efforts to seed life across galaxies, and the slow, painful fading of the founder race. Through it all, Lena watched Naro closely. He wasn't just remembering, he was grieving. His people had once ruled the stars, not with power, but with purpose. And now, their time was ending. Unless somehow the genetic link he spoke of could help reverse that fate. She asked him gently, "Why did my blood help you? It doesn't make sense." "It is more than blood," Naro said. "It is design. Our last hope was not to preserve bodies, but to preserve keys. You are that key." On the 7th day, Lena stood at the observation window, staring down at Europa's icy surface. The stars beyond looked unchanged, but she felt completely different. What had started as a medical emergency had become something much bigger, something cosmic. Kieran joined her quietly. "I ran more tests. He's not wrong. Your blood holds dormant sequences, gene markers we've never seen before. Some of them activate only in his presence." Lena blinked, like they were waiting. "Exactly." They stood in silence for a moment until Kieran added, "You think we're ready for this?" "I don't know," she replied. "But ready or not, it's already begun." Later that night, Naro approached her and placed his palm gently against her chest. "You are bridge," he said softly, "between past and what comes." And in that quiet, glowing room, Lena Moran realized something deeper than science had taken root. A connection had formed, not between two species, but between two pieces of a long-forgotten whole. They weren't just strangers from distant stars. They were the beginning of something entirely new. A pulse between stars had started to beat again. News spread quickly. The story of a dying alien saved by a human transfusion wasn't something that could be kept secret for long, not with surveillance satellites orbiting Europa and deep space monitoring networks constantly online. Within days, Solace was no longer alone in its orbit. New ships arrived, some scientific, others diplomatic, all carrying questions and expectations. People wanted answers. What was the creature? What was its connection to humanity? And what did it mean for the future? Lena Moran barely had time to think. Each day brought new visitors, new tests, and more pressure. Yet, in the middle of it, all she found peace whenever she sat beside Naro. His health had fully returned and the glow of his skin pulsed with strength and calm. They didn't need to speak often. Their silence was filled with understanding. Still, as much as she trusted him, she knew the world outside their small bond wasn't so ready to believe. One of the first specialists to arrive was Annika Vren, a respected xenohistorian from Mars Colony. Sharp-eyed and always questioning, Annika carried dozens of files and ancient star maps. She studied every hologram Naro shared, every word he spoke, and every scan of Lena's altered blood. She didn't trust Easy, but she couldn't argue with the data. "This is older than anything we've found," Annika said one evening, her eyes fixed on the swirling patterns of light Naro had projected. "I've seen similar markings on ruins from Kepler 186f, but I always thought they were decorative. Now I wonder if they were warnings or invitations." Another unexpected arrival came in the form of Jael Kor, an alien envoy from a distant system called Voltan Reach. Jael's people had long believed in the myth of the origin blood, a shared essence that linked several intelligent species in their part of the galaxy. Seeing Lena and Naro side by side made Jael pause with deep emotion. "Stories passed down through my kind spoke of the spark from the blue world," Jael told the group in one of the briefings. "We thought it was only legend, but the readings from your blood, Dr. Moran, they matched the signals hidden deep in our own." Lena felt a strange mix of awe and responsibility. She had never imagined her life would hold such weight, Just weeks ago, she was a quiet scientist studying frozen microbes. Now, beings from other worlds saw her as some kind of key to ancient knowledge and survival. It didn't feel real. And yet it was happening. With Annika's help, Naro decoded more from the files stored in his own cells. Genetic memory, past, down over centuries. They pieced together a story that stretched across millennia. Long ago, the founders were a powerful civilization that understood genetics in ways modern science barely approached. They saw the collapse of their worlds coming, not from war but from slow biological decay. To stop it, they seeded new worlds with a wide variety of genetic material, hoping some would thrive. Earth had been one of those experiments. Humans, it turned out, weren't just an accident of evolution. They were designed in part, not in a cold, calculated way, but as a desperate act of survival from a species facing extinction. The founders had mixed their own DNA with local planetary life, letting evolution take its course. Thousands of years later, humanity rose, independent, unaware but holding the dormant pieces of the past. The more Lena learned, the more questions she had. "Why didn't anyone come sooner?" she asked Naro one night. He looked at her for a long moment. "We searched, but many of us forgot. We scattered, became small, and fear silenced the search. Until I saw your world, bright and full of life. Then I remembered." His words carried sadness but also hope. Lena understood that his people hadn't just lost their strength. They'd lost their purpose, and now, with her help, they were beginning to remember it. The Council of Systems, an interplanetary alliance that rarely agreed on anything, sent observers next. Their interest wasn't just scientific, it was political. What would happen if Earth was suddenly seen not as a new player in the galaxy, but as a missing piece of a much older puzzle? Some feared chaos. Others hoped for unity. Lena was invited to speak before the council remotely. She wasn't a politician or a diplomat, but she knew what she believed. She spoke plainly. She told them about the crash, about the blood, about Naro's survival. She showed them the evidence. And then she asked one question. If we are part of something greater, what are we waiting for? Shouldn't we find out what else connects us? The silence that followed was deep. Then, one by one, the council members agreed to support further research. For the first time in memory, there was full consensus. Lena didn't feel triumphant. She felt grateful and curious. Back aboard Solace, as Naro and Jael watched stars pass outside the window, Lena placed her hand against the glass. "We're not alone," she whispered. "We never were." Naro stood beside her. "And now the truth in your veins will light the path for all." The galaxy had changed, quietly at first, then all at once. What started with a single drop of blood had opened a door to truths buried in time. Lena Morin never imagined she would be standing at the center of something so large. But here she was on the deck of the Solace, watching the stars shift outside her window as messages from across space flooded in. Earth was no longer just a blue dot on the edge of a forgotten system. It had become a beacon. Ships now arrived regularly, some to study, some to offer help, and others just to witness history. Representatives from species Lena had only read about in data files sat in quiet meetings with human scientists, sharing knowledge once considered lost. No one knew exactly what the future would bring, but for the first time, there was a feeling of shared purpose, like a puzzle finally beginning to come together. Naro stayed close, always observing, always listening. His connection with Lena had grown into something neither of them could fully explain. It wasn't romantic, and it wasn't purely scientific. It was a deep understanding between two people who had seen each other at their most vulnerable. Naro, who had once been dying, now stood stronger than ever, his voice steadier, his light brighter. He spent long hours teaching and sharing, unlocking more of the founder's legacy from his genetic memory. But the most important moment came unexpectedly. It began when a young Earth researcher named Javi was analyzing a rare mineral sample taken from beneath Europa's ice. He wasn't looking for anything in particular, just running standard tests. But when he exposed the sample to a drop of Lena's altered blood, the reaction was instant. The mineral glowed, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. The lab systems couldn't explain it. Neither could Lena, but Naro could. "This is a key," he said quietly. "One part from your world, one part from ours. It awakens something older than us both." He called it the rebirth matrix. According to the memories stored in his cells, it was a last creation of the founders, an ancient machine hidden on Europa beneath miles of ice, waiting for a moment just like this. It had no buttons or switches. It responded only to those, with the right blood, the right essence. It needed the connection they now understood, a bond formed long ago and passed on through time. Lena hesitated when she was asked to activate it. There were no guarantees. No one knew exactly what the matrix would do. It could heal. It could harm. It might do nothing at all. But deep down, she felt the same pull she had felt the day she chose to help Naro. The feeling that some moments were meant to happen even if you didn't fully understand them. Surrounded by scientists, observers, and allies, Lena stood before the glowing core of the matrix. It didn't look like a machine. It looked like a living crystal, shaped by time and pressure, humming with quiet power. She stepped forward and pressed her hand to its surface. For a second, nothing happened. Then the room filled with light. Not bright, not blinding. Gentle light, like the first sunrise after a long night. Everyone froze as beams stretched out from the matrix, passing through the walls, through the ice, through space itself. The pulse traveled faster than light, reaching worlds that had forgotten the founders, touching species that carried small pieces of their code. Across the galaxy, people began to change. It wasn't instant, but it was undeniable. Diseases began to fade. Old genetic conditions reversed themselves. People reported sudden dreams of places they had never been, voices they had never heard, songs that didn't exist in any known language. Something ancient had awakened, something inside everyone. Naro watched with quiet wonder. "We have begun again," he said. The days after were filled with questions. Was the effect permanent? Would it continue to spread? Could it be controlled? No one had answers. But Lena noticed something simple and beautiful. People were talking, not just across nations, but across species. Former enemies sat side by side, not because they were forced, but because they were curious. They wanted to know where they came from, and what they could become. Back on Earth, children born after the activation showed unusual traits. Not dangerous, just different. Enhanced memory, strange instincts. One child in South Africa spoke a word in Naro's native tongue within minutes of being born, though no one around him had ever heard it. Lena received messages from parents asking, "What does this mean?" She never had an exact answer, but she told them the truth. It means the future is finally here. As peace talks formed and science moved faster than ever, Lena chose to stay aboard the Solace. It had become her home. Naro remained too, not as a guest, but as a partner. He had given the galaxy a second chance, but he insisted it was Lena who had lit the first spark. "You saved me," he said one night, "with only hope and kindness. That is the strongest science of all." The stars outside looked the same as they always had, cold, distant, beautiful. But Lena knew better now. Somewhere out there were others like Naro, others like herself, bound not by politics or borders, but by the truth in their veins. And it had all started with one decision, one moment of compassion, one shared heartbeat. The universe, once so large and silent, now felt like a family rediscovering itself, and the story was only just beginning.